Um, just obviously, a lot of people probably will be aware that Jeff Wally passed in the week. So obviously our thoughts are with him. I don't know if anyone's got any more news, but maybe no. Okay, so just bear Shirley and her family in your thoughts and your prayers this coming week, because obviously it's a tough time for them. Yeah, I'll just open the service with prayer, I think. Father, I just thank you for your goodness. I thank you for your grace. And Lord, I just thank you that above all things you are unchanging, and that we can turn to you and we can look to you, and that we can draw strength from you. I pray, Lord, just for Shirley and her family. I pray, Father, that you'll just comfort them this week, and that they will just draw strength from you as they come to terms with the loss of Jeff. And I pray for people in this church who knew him well and have also found it very difficult and have struggled. I pray, Lord, that you'll just help each of us to just draw our strength from you and just keep our eyes focused firmly on you, Lord. Pray for Martin as he comes and shares God's word with us later. I pray you'll bless him, and that through Martin, each of us will be challenged and blessed as we go into today and our coming week. So Father, just pray for all those who are leading different parts of this service this morning, for those doing the youth, for the music, the technical side of things. I pray, Lord, that everything will just run smoothly. And I pray, Lord, that each of us will go away today feeling lifted and challenged and excited about the fact that we know you and that we have a personal relationship with you. So, Lord, just let your Spirit fall upon this church today, I pray. Amen. Okay.
Hi, and we're going to put something up on the projector. Okay, so the idea is we ask a question, I ask a question, and you're allowed to answer me, particularly the youngsters. Okay, so who am I, or what am I? Well, you won't know until you see it. Technology is a wonderful thing when it works. Whilst it's going, let me sort of skip a little bit. There was an article published in a magazine called Science in 2007. Okay, this is an interesting fact for those who like interesting facts. 2007, an article published in this magazine called Science, and it showed that small domestic cats were probably first domesticated in the area now known as Iraq. Okay, so now we've got a what am I? If we can have the next slide.
It's coming.
That was interesting. Okay, so what am I? A cat. Okay. Any more detail about this particular cat? It's a tabby and it's a kitten. Yeah, isn't it lovely? Okay. So all domestic cats, ones like this and others that don't look quite so cute, apparently, according to the Science magazine, were first domesticated in Iraq a long time ago. Now, it didn't say in the article, but it's interesting to me because Iraq is the place where the Tower of Babel would have been built back in the day. Okay, and from the Tower of Babel, the whole population of the world spread out and began to use different languages. So it's interesting that from there, all these domestic cats went with different types of people, and you got different types of domestic cat in different parts of the world. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so who or what am I? Tiger and a lion. Okay. Yeah. Now, what is the same about these? They're both cats. Yeah. Okay. So, another click. And repeating the question, what's the same about these three types of things? They're all cats. Okay. Now, I asked the question, and you know, it's sort of fairly obvious because cats do look like cats. What's the difference between them? Size, particularly, yeah, yeah. And they've all got different stripes or lack of stripes, or sometimes spots, and different amounts of hair. It's a bit like humans, really. You know, I'm not doing too badly on hair, despite my age. But some people, my granddaughter. She's this high, she's beautiful, and her hair comes out like this, and her mum despairs. Yeah, but you know, humans don't tend to have spots and stripes, but we do have different colours. But we all come from the same place. Okay, now, next slide, please. What is this a picture of? It's a lion and it's roaring. You've got in front of my next question. Okay. Now, if a kitten tried to roar, would it make much noise? Would it make you afraid? No. Okay. If an adult heard a lion roar close to them, would they be afraid? You bet they would. Okay. So, does anybody know a Bible verse that talks about a lion roaring and people being afraid? Adults are allowed to join in at this point. There is one like about the devil striding around like a roaring lion. Yeah. Not the one I had in mind. There's another one. Okay. But good for remembering that one. And any other one? Okay. Let's take the next click. Oop, what's he doing is the roaring, and the next click. What would you worry? Yeah, and then the next click. Okay, and then the next one is. Ooh. Everyone is terrified when a lion roars, and ordinary people become prophets when the Lord speaks. Okay. So, if you think that a lion is scary, okay, prophets think that God is scary, because when he talks to them, they don't get any choice but to answer and to go forward and do what they should. A little bit more about the cats. How many cats would there have been on the ark? Noah's Ark? Two. Okay, you fairly sure about that? Okay. It's not quite a trick question, but it's almost a trick question. Okay. So, on the ark, there were two general types of animals. Okay. And most of them went in 2 by 2, because that's how the song goes. Some of them didn't go in 2 by 2, they went in a different number. Anybody know the other number? 7. Yeah. Okay. So all the domestic animals went in 7s. Okay. Whereas the wild animals went in 2 by 2. A lot of people do think, and you'll see children's toys with arks and animals standing on the top and falling off, okay, and you think, that's a very silly ark, because that ain't going to float, and if it had that number of animals on the top, it would just collapse over, okay. An ark wasn't small, the ark was gigantic, Yeah, it was at least twice as high as the building and probably 5 or 10 times as long, okay, and maybe a little bit wider. So the ark was gigantic, and it would have taken a lot of animals, but it wouldn't have taken 2 of every type of cat that we currently have today. So the ark would not have had 2 tigers and 2 lions and 2 tabbies and 2 ocelots and 2, okay, it would have had 2 cats. Yeah, and same with other animals. So you get dogs. Okay, most of you can recognise a dog, but most of you would look at a wolf or a fox or a coyote, and you'd think, well, that's a bit like a dog, and you'd probably be right. And on the ark, there probably weren't 2 wolves and 2 terriers and 2 Alsatians. Yeah, there were probably 2 dogs. Okay. So God does some amazing things, and we don't always understand, and sometimes we get things complicated in our heads about what God can do and what he has done in the past. But it's always good to remember that he blesses us with animals that are both wild and now domesticated. So we have a lovely little tabby cats that are really cute if you get the right picture, and roaring lions who are really scary. Thank you. Good morning again. If you're new here, then may I add my welcome to you to and say thank you for visiting South Oxley Baptist Church. If you are a regular, then thank you for the invitation to preach. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So you can see on the screen my name is Martin Taylor. I'm a member of South Oxley, not a member of South Oxley. I'm a member. If I had a memory, I'd be dangerous. I'm a member of Belmont Road Baptist Church in Hemel Hempstead, and I bring greetings from there. I'm also part of the Hertfordshire Fellowship of Baptist Preachers, which is quite difficult to say. The annual preaching exchange enables ministers to have a day away from their own congregations. They love the congregations, but it's nice to have a day off every now and again. It enables lay preachers such as myself to visit churches and to build relationships with those churches. Now, are you okay to work a little differently this morning? Yeah. Yeah? Well, some really strong yeses from over here and a little bit quiet on this side. Okay. So with your permission, I'd like to have this as an interactive session, okay? Which means that I'll need you to talk amongst yourselves. I'll need you to, discuss and give me answers back. It does mean you can ask questions if you want. If you think you need to move in order to be next to somebody so you can talk to them, that'd be great. Okay, next slide, please. Today I'd like to look at one of the ways that we can hear from God. But in order to be reasonably confident of hearing God, you have to have a relationship with God. So it's useful if you're a Christian. It's not to say that non-Christians don't hear from God ever, because sometimes they do. But if you are a Christian, then there's an expectation that you are able to talk to God and that God can talk to you. So if you're not a Christian, if you're not quite sure what a Christian is, or if you think that Christian is somebody who goes to church and you go to church, therefore you're a Christian, it doesn't quite work like that, okay? In order to be a Christian, you have to have a living relationship with Jesus Christ. You have to have a living relationship with Jesus Christ. You have to know who Jesus is. Jesus has to know who you are. You have to be able to work together. You have actually to be able to talk to each other and listen to each other. If your relationship with Jesus is not at the point where you can talk to him, or where he never talks to you, then perhaps it's time to reevaluate what your relationship with Jesus is. Traditionally, we are told that we hear from God by reading the Bible, by listening to that inner voice when God speaks to us, in quiet, in personal prayer. Also, being aware of our conscience, and by checking things out with trusted Christian friends. And there's a combination of these things that the Bible talks about, and that combination is what I'd like to explore with you today. Remember, it is meant to be an interactive session, so you're allowed to answer questions and you are allowed to ask questions. If we're trying to hear what God is saying, it can be helpful to assess where we are spiritually, first of all. So let's start with, where are we spiritually today? Okay? Where are we spiritually today? Where are you individually spiritually today? And so your first task is, preferably in pairs, because otherwise it'll take ages. What I want you to do in pairs is the match test. Anybody understands what the match test is? Have you ever taken a match out of, one or two nods, you take a match out of a box, okay, and you strike it, and you hold it, and you have a flame, and it's a nice flame, and it stays as a flame, and then you start worrying because it's burning down the match, and eventually you have to let go, otherwise it burns your fingers. Okay, that takes more about 60 seconds. Okay, and the match test is, can you tell your testimony? Can you say, this is how I became a Christian in 60 seconds? And that's what you're going to do now, preferably in pairs. Okay, so one person's going to have 60 seconds to say, this is how I became a Christian, and I'll time you, so it'll be exactly 60 seconds. And then the other person in the pair is going to have 60 seconds to say how they became a Christian. Fair enough? If you'd like to sort of accumulate yourselves into pairs, and we'll give that a go. So find a pair. So you're mostly in pairs. Okay, so 60 seconds. This is how I became a Christian, starting now. Starting now. "45 seconds to go. "30 seconds. "15 seconds. "10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. Okay, because now it's the other person's turn. So if you swap over, and the other person has 60 seconds starting now. "45 seconds. 30 seconds. Fifteen seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. Okay? Now, there was a lot of talking going on, so I'm assuming that was an interesting exercise. How many people actually managed to do their entire testimony in 60 seconds? Ooh, well done, well done. Real congratulations to those folks. It's always easier to say something in an hour than it is to say something in 60 seconds, because doing it in a short time, you've got to think a lot about what is really important and what's not quite so important and embellishment. But that's a good exercise.
Just an improvement. When I was in my Pentecostal youth, we used to have a lighted match, and you just had to light it and hold it. Once your fingers got burned, you got to
We're now health and safety conscious. Not allowed to do that any longer. Lighting matches in buildings with carpets. Yes, I wouldn't have been popular if I tried that one. But it's a good exercise, and it's useful for when you've got a very short time to tell somebody about Jesus. And sometimes that 60 seconds is the only time that you'll have. So practice that. Okay. Another exercise. You hopefully got a piece of paper, and what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to draw an arrow on your piece of paper. Okay? And I'd like you to draw it bright enough or loud enough or big enough so that when you hold it up, and you will be holding it up, so that I can see it from the front. Okay? So hopefully you can see this. Can everybody see this? Yeah. Okay. So it's got to be that sort of size, or that sort of size if you're using the whole piece of paper. Okay. Because now I'd like you to individually assess yourselves. Okay. How has your spiritual life changed over the last year? How has your spiritual life changed over the last year? Did you move away from God, or did you get closer? If your spiritual life has strengthened, put your arrow upwards. Okay? You hold it upwards. If your spiritual life has got worse, then hold it downwards. Okay? And if it's somewhere in between, you're allowed to put it somewhere in between. Okay? How has your spiritual life changed over the last year? Okay, so if you hold up your arrows. Okay. That's interesting. So a number of people have got sheets with a sort of knot shape on them, and unfortunately with the light behind, I can't tell which way the arrow is. Never mind. I think a lot of people, their spiritual life has got better. A few, it's mostly better, but a little bit, yeah. And one or two are not quite sure, or yeah. Okay. Have you heard anything? This is the next question. Have you heard anything from God in the last year? Hold it with your arrow facing upwards if you've heard something from God in the last year. Okay? If you've heard nothing from God in the last year, then point it down. If you're not sure, or you've only heard a little bit, or you thought you heard it and then you lost it, you're allowed to put it somewhere in between. Okay? So, good number of arrows. Good number of arrows going upwards. One or two Hey, that's great. Thank you for taking part in that. Now, I'd like to go to the next slide, which says, what does a prophet look like? Now, the answer to this was in the all-age talk. So if we can have the next thing. Okay. What does a prophet look like? Okay. The answer is on the screen. Ordinary people, yeah. So ordinary people become prophets. Ordinary people become prophets when God speaks. Now, can you just turn to your pair person and just have a little discussion with them about what your preconception of a prophet is? What did you once think a prophet looked like? Okay, anybody like to share what they used to think a prophet looked like? A big beard. Okay. A bit wild and wacky. Yeah. Anybody else? Sandals. Oh, sandals are very important. Okay. A man. Okay. Yeah. Stereotype. Great. Many years ago, when PowerPoint first became available, I had to do a seminar at work. I'd gone to a conference, and the organisers of the conference insisted that they should do the PowerPoint because they had to have quality. Okay, and so I had to provide what I wanted to them. And for some reason, which I can't quite remember now, I needed a picture of a prophet. Okay, now I was expecting some rendition of Moses, you know, with the whole long beard and sandals and sort of gowny shaped things. That was what I was expecting them to come up with. But no, the world's interpretation of a prophet apparently at the time turned out to be an Eastern guru floating cross-legged and meditating. Okay, so not everybody has a sort of full understanding of what a prophet in the Old Testament might have looked like, and not so much what a prophet might look like today. But we've seen from Amos 3:8 that ordinary people become prophets, and so that's you and I. So today a prophet looks like one of you, or maybe all of you. Okay, what do you make of that? Has God gone quiet, or does he speak today? Who can be a prophet? Well, it's ordinary people like you and I. Next slide, please. How does God use prophets? How does God use prophets? What does God use prophets for? If you'd like to discuss that in your group, what does God use prophets for? Okay, any ideas? What does God use prophets for? To provide a message, yeah? So God uses prophets to provide a message. Okay, the next slide, please. Good. So, have you got any Bible verses that might give us a bit of a clue about how God uses prophets? And just to give you a sneak preview, Amos is a good place to look. And next to the verse that we just had. Okay, any more ideas? Ezekiel, yeah. Exiles, yeah.
So in Ezekiel chapter 1, where he actually appeared to Ezekiel of the river, to tell him that he's chosen him to go and preach to the people of Israel.
Yeah.
Who were exiles in Babylon.
Okay, so Ezekiel was in exile in Babylon, and God appeared to him and said, I need you to go and speak to the exiles. Okay, great. So, thank you. Could somebody read what's on the screen, the verse on the screen?
Surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets.
Yeah. The sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plans to his servants, the prophets. Now that is quite an incredible verse, because God is doing stuff all the time, all over the place. And that means he needs quite a lot of prophets, because he's going to tell his prophets what he's going to do. He's going to tell you guys what he's going to do here and around here. And he may tell one or two of you, things that are going to happen in the wider sphere. Okay. The next slide, please. So, discuss in your groups, or can you take that one back? Okay. You have to pretend you didn't see that. Discuss within your groups which verses in Acts give us an idea of what prophecy should look like today. What should prophecy look like today, and particularly how it should appear from Acts. Would anybody like to share aloud? Anybody like to share aloud what the answers are?
I've got one here in 1 Corinthians 14 verse 4, which says, the person who speaks in the tongue builds himself up, but the one who prophesies builds up the church.
One who prophesies builds up the church. Yep, that's good.
And before that, in verse 3, one who prophesies strengthens others, encourages them, and comforts them.
Strengthen, encourage, and comfort. We'll probably come back to that in a moment. Okay, anything else? Can we have the next click? So Acts 2:17 to 18 is a key verse, and the next click. Okay, and one more. And one more. So, anybody know when the last days end? When do the last days end? When Jesus comes back. Absolutely. Has Jesus come in glory yet? No. Excellent stuff. When did the last days start? Mostly, according to when the Holy Spirit came. Yeah. So the day of Pentecost, the day that Peter spoke these words, he's actually repeating from the prophet Joel, but Peter quoted Joel. It was the day of Pentecost. So, if the last days started in the day of Pentecost, somewhere around, 35, give or take a bit, and they haven't finished yet, it means they've been going on for quite a long time. So we've had about 2,000 years of the last days. Okay? That might worry some people. It doesn't worry God too much. A day in the Lord's eyes is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. The important point for us, the learning point for us, is that they've not yet ended. Jesus has not yet come in glory. And so that means that Acts 2:17 to 18 still applies today. You got that? Acts 2:17 to 18 still applies today. So we should be expecting our sons and daughters to prophesy. We should be expecting that God's servants will prophesy. We should be expecting our young men to see visions and our old men to dream dreams. This is a word for us. You will dream dreams. You will have visions. You will prophesy. God is always good to us. Can I have the next slide, please? He always wants to lavish his love upon us. So what did Paul say about prophecy in 1 Corinthians 14 verse 1? Would somebody like to read that?
Earnestly pursue love and eagerly desire spiritual gifts, especially the gift of prophecy.
Okay. Earnestly pursue love, eagerly desire spiritual gifts, especially the gift of prophecy. Now, we've just seen from the Acts verses that it still applies today. We should be expecting prophecy today. This is saying we should all be earnestly desiring spiritual gifts in general, and particularly the gift of prophecy. Why should we be doing that? Because God doesn't do anything without telling his servants, the prophets. So if God's going to do something, we probably ought to be asking him and expecting him to tell us. Okay, next slide, please. Now, why have I entitled this slide, Practice Being Kind? The answer to that is because we should be pursuing love first. As Christians, it's important that we love, care for, and support each other. In essence, that we are kind to each other. One way of being kind is actually to follow the biblical instructions for prophecy. The biblical instruction in particular that's on the screen. So 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 3 says, "The one who prophesies speaks to people for their strengthening, encouraging and comfort." And we had that verse earlier on, so thank you. Encourage, strengthen, comfort. Encourage, strengthen, comfort. So this is the New Testament definition of prophecy. And Paul said 2 verses earlier that he wanted everyone to prophesy. Now, prophesying every now and again isn't quite the same as being a prophet, okay? But you're still allowed to prophesy. You're all allowed to prophesy. You don't have to be a prophet. So, are you up for giving it a go? Yeah, of course you are. Okay? Because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be kind. You are going to be strengthening, encouraging, and comforting. Does that make sense? You are going to be strengthening, encouraging, and comforting to somebody else here. So, we're going to take a moment to pray. I'll lead in prayer. You'll get 30 seconds to pray, God help me. Okay? And it'll be, God help me to say something strengthening, encouraging and comforting to somebody else here. And then I'll ask you all to stand up and go and strengthen, encourage, comfort somebody else here. So let's pray. Father God, we thank you that you do nothing without revealing it to your servants, the prophets. We thank you that you encourage us to prophesy. We thank you that you want us to strengthen, encourage and comfort other people, and particularly those in the fellowship here. Father, give each one of us something that's strengthening, encouraging and comforting for another person here this morning. 30 seconds for you to pray. Lord, help me. Show me something that's strengthening, encouraging and comforting to somebody else here. Like now to stand up and go and strengthen, encourage or comfort someone else here. Strengthen, encourage, comfort. Be kind. Okay, if you're just about finished, if you'd like to take your seats. There's a lady at the back with an orange top, and the Lord says to you, you are rounded spiritually, and He's touching you, and you're going to be fruitful for Him. He's going to bless you, and you're going to be fruitful for Him. Next year, God is going to move. He's already started. A friend of mine, about a week ago, in conversation, said they sort of heard a spiritual army marching, and they were marching to a beat, and the beat changed. So it's like an army, and you hear a drum going boom, 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 because the marching army is marching. And then the beat changed, and the beat got faster. Boom, 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 boom. Because when the beat gets faster, The army is starting to move and is ready to attack. And God's army is on the move. God's army is getting ready for an attack. God's army is going to change things in the world next year, and he's already started. And you will experience people coming in through the door that you weren't expecting. So you need to be ready as a church to receive new people and to be able to take them on and turn them into disciples. Because that's what we are about. We are about making disciples. Expect God to move. Do expect some opposition. Satan's not going to sit around and just let you get on with it happily. So there will be opposition. You guys have gone through Brexit, you've gone through the pandemic, and you have survived. And God has been with you all that time. And he will be with you in 2025. But you need to watch out for that. You need to make sure that you are walking with God through that time. And particularly, remember to love one another. Remember to love one another. Love covers a multitude of sins. Because life happens. Mistakes happen. People do get annoyed with each other. That's the way the world is. And because of that, it's really, really, really important that you are loving one another, that you are going the extra mile, that you are deliberately avoiding taking offence at that word that was said out of turn. If you remember nothing else from this morning, remember to love one another.